No, there's one good thing about marriage. I won't deny. All right, there's one really good thing about marriage. The best thing about marriage is that these are connected. They don't come off. Because if they did, your wife would take it as soon as you got married. She'd go, you're married now. You won't be needing that. I'll just take care of that for you, okay? Now, if you want this, it'll be in my purse or in the refrigerator. What? You're going out of town with your friends? You can just leave that here. Oh, they do it, man. They do it in a fucking minute. Are you kidding me? Shit. You see all these guys on the phone going, hello, guys? Yeah, listen, I got to cancel out. I'm not going to be able to go with you. No, it sounds like a lot of fun. I can't go. She's got my dick! Yeah, she won't give it to me. I talked to her all day about it, and she said no. Yeah, she's pissed off. I tried to sneak out of the house with it this morning. I was halfway out the drive, and she came running out of the house, and I had to give it to her right there in the street. Okay. Okay, I'll ask her. Hold on. Honey, it's the guys. Yeah, they just called to say that they're all taking theirs. But I was just going to take mine because, everybody else is taking theirs. They didn't want to stand out or nothing. I was going to... Okay. Now, she said no. She said, no fucking way the dick stays here. Yeah, you do me a favor? If you see me working on the yard next week and stuff and around the house, you do me a favor? Kill me. Kill me. Are you my friends? Do you love me? Do you remember when I was a man and I controlled my own destiny? Kill me! Kill me! Shoot me in the fucking face! I want to die! I beg for death! Ah! Ah!
He had a style, and it was a crazy, well, he was a genius, man. He really was. Just absolutely great,
I just remember him being off on some profane, perverse, post-sacrilegious diatribe.
Who is this rotund, kind of crazed individual prancing the stage?
His voice, his appearance, the long jacket, the beret.
Beret and the trench coat.
He had this overcoat. He looked like one of the James boys.
I just fell in love with the guy right away.
And he didn't take no prisoners.
He had huge heart, big heart, very funny, outrageous.
I just thought he was hilarious.
It was all eyes and that mouth, even all those caricatures that they had of him, especially the first several years, were...
There's someone who's going to scream for you.
He could scare you while people go, ah, I see people like in the front row, actually frightened.
But he scared them into paying attention.
I used to tell him, I said, man, if you ever get in a happy relationship, your comedy's over.
He was both menacing and lovable at the same time.
He was a very funny man.
I thought his HBO special was one of the best HBO specials I had seen by anybody.
He was the voice of outrage, I think, that speaks inside of all of us about having to hold back, having to be socially acceptable.
I've been caught in an affair before. It's no fun, but you figure after you admit it, all right, I did it. Just let, Women are never satisfied with that. It's never enough to just go, I cheated on you, I'm sorry. That's all I want to know. Did you fuck her? Did you fuck her? How many times you heard that one, guys? You know, and you go, yes. Yes, I did. You think that's the end of it? Then like a day later, it's like, did she suck your dick? Ah! Tell me, you cheating son of a bitch!
If it's taboo and it's the truth, it's really fun.
And Sam tapped into that vein, and people love that. It's ballsy, you know. They want to see it come from the heart, and they want to hear it, even if it's dirty or controversial.
I mean, it was part of what he did, and I accepted it, and it never bothered me, and I always thought he was terrific.
I sat her down. I said, listen, I got to tell you the truth. I've had like 8 affairs on you in the last year, and I feel real bad about it, and I don't blame you for breaking up with me. If you want to break up with me, break up with me. I wouldn't blame you. And I felt like such a fucking jerk, you know, and she's crying. Don't go. Don't go, you know, and I'm hearing this, and I'm going, I can't believe this. This is love. This woman's going to forgive me. It's going to be better than it ever was. I'm going to be a good man. Yeah, this woman has convinced me love is real. People can forgive each other and go on unaffected, man. I really got into it. I came home. I was the nicest guy. I didn't cheat anymore. I felt so good about myself. And in 4 months, this fucking vicious bitch. Yeah, I didn't hear the last part when she was crying that said, don't go, because I haven't got you back yet. I didn't hear that part, and so I'm this, you know, I'm Mr. Nice Guy. I'm buying this fucking bullshit. It's gonna be the same as it ever was, yeah. She forgave me, yeah. I'm in New York, I gotta fly back to LA. I can just now talk about this. I'm flying. This was 2 years ago. Oh, I remember the fucking day! I'm flying back from New York. It's 2 years ago. I did drugs then. Oh, they see through me! They see through me! Yeah. All right, so I'm flying from New York. I'm trying to relax myself because I know it's going to be 5.5 hours drive. Flight, you know, so I'm high than shit, you know. Smoked a couple joints. I'm seeing Aztec temples and shit, you know. I'm wandering around the Newark airport going, where's gate 56? Want me to gate 56? And this wonderful woman, she packed my luggage for me. And in my bag, she packed a loaded .38. That's what this vicious little fucking bitch that forgave me and everything was going to be the same. So I'm going through customs, you know, or whatever, the x-ray thing. I walk through the box, nothing's going on, wait for my bag, and all of a sudden, he's got a gun! He's got a fucking gun! So I'm turning around here, I'm going, I'm going to see some real shit, man. So, somebody's trying to smuggle a gun through her. I turn around, there's 4 federal officers going, you want to step away from the luggage rack, please, sir? Step away from the luggage rack! So I'm looking around, I'm going, no! That fucking whore! Oh yeah, she forgave me, yeah! Oh, I cheated on her a little bit, sure. One night stands, nobody she knew, but I didn't have to go to federal prison for 7 years so I could be some guy's roommate and put on a dress and shoes and dance.
There are many great talents around, great comics who think great and do great things, but they don't have the attitude, the presentation of Sam with that voice.
I think bottom line is that Sam had a mesmerizing voice, was an incredible speaker.
Look at you! Twins, nasty fucking little twins. God. Oh, you're cruel! You're a cruel bastard sometimes! I love women, man. I always have loved fucking women. Well, that was tough, folks. You know, I'm a comedian. I'm in show business, and then I'd be working at the club, you know. Women wait for you after the show, and they come up to you and they go, you know, I know you have a girlfriend, so we'll be real discreet. We'll go to my house.
Nobody will know about it. We'll get high. We'll light some incense. I'll light a couple candles. And I'll give you head while you read aloud out of a book of 100-year-old erotic stories. You know anyone, yeah? Well, I'd like to go, but, my girlfriend's on her period, and she's home worried about the Cablevision bill, so I'm going to go and be a sexual disappointment there, but thanks. Thanks for that exciting offer, but I'm going to be a good boyfriend and go home. Yeah, sure, folks, come on. Come on, I just got out of the ministry. I wanted to taste it all!
He touched a deeper chord than most comics do. Most comics, it's cute, it's funny, it's this or that, but I think Sam really was on a different plane.
You think there's anything left inside you?
A different rocket ship.
That has any good to it, that could shine a light into somebody's lost way? Do you think if you had to, if your soul was riding on the line and you had to testify and you had to make a commitment, if it was a final answer, what would you do? Well,
my mom and dad were preachers that were kicked out of the Church of God, basically because my dad was too controversial for their doctrine. And they went independent, came to Peoria and started their own church, which is where all my mother's family lived, so kind of like she came home.
From what I remember, Sam's background was his family were evangelists.
He understood the Bible, he understood deeper spiritual things, but he also, he spoke from the heart, and I think his humor came from the heart, and it wasn't necessarily an act.
Sam was raised very religiously. He was raised as an evangelist. He used, I think, their technique to draw people in.
Sam was born December the 8th, 1953, which was like 3 weeks before my mom and dad's life falls apart in the ministry. Then they end up in a divorce, and Sam was, I guess he was 10 at the time. So it was very traumatic for him.
Okay, now stick with me because it gets real complicated. But before I was your little son, before I was your baby, your dependent, I was a free spirit in the next stage of life. I walked in the cosmos, not imprisoned by a body of flesh, but free in a body of light. I knew all things. There were no questions, only answers, no weaknesses, only strength. I was light. I was truth. I was a spiritual being. I was a God, but you had to fuck and bring my ass down here. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't call you up and say, please have me. Can I work at Winchell someday? I didn't ask shit. You fucked. You had me. Now you want me to pay my own way? Fuck you. Pick up the fucking check, Bobby.
I think one of the first real changes in Sam's life, he was 3 years old. We was living in the projects there in Peoria. And I was in school. It was really a weird deal because I was in school. I heard this ambulance siren, and I knew they were going to get Sam. I didn't know how. I just knew that something had happened to him. And what had happened is he was playing and had followed a ball out in the street, and a semi-truck hit him. And he ended up with 30% brain damage and grand mal epilepsy, which no one except the immediate family ever knew. None of his wives ever knew that he was epileptic. And never had any seizures, although they said around the age of 40, which he's very fearful of, that he would start having these seizures. And but it totally changed his personality. Up to that time, he's a very passive, laid back, at 3 years old, very passive, very laid back. And next thing you knew, he's aggressive. And I remember when they brought him back from the hospital, I thought they'd switch kids on us. I really did. I thought the real Sam was still at the hospital somewhere, and we had a new Sam here. He had went back to wetting the bed, which he did till he was 15 years old. He started drooling again, things that he would have done as a child. But I also think was probably responsible for a large part of the the comedic genius later on in him, because you know, he's unpredictable. I mean, in his mind, he knew where he was going. Nobody else knew where it was going.
I know they messed around with this guy's book. I read the Bible. I know they messed around with this guy's book. They did, man. The guy was under too much stress. You know, he could heal. That's a pain in the ass.
His subject matters were wild.
The sick will find you wherever you go. If you can heal, you've got a new full-time job, folks.
But the wildest thing was his presentation.
They'll find your ass. You can't take a piss. Because, oh, Jesus! Are you in here? You got a minute to look at this? Blind guys are coming in and go, where is he? Where is he?
People didn't believe this man. He said he was a preacher. And I believed him. Nobody could be like that if he wasn't a preacher.
So you know this guy had those days. It's just like, oh man, I see another leper, I'm gonna go on!
He ran away from home at the age of 14. We never saw him for 2 years. Didn't know if he's alive or dead, even though our father did, but he never told us. That was the deal that he had with my dad, is that as long as he wouldn't tell any of the rest of the family where he's at, he'd stay in touch, and he did.
Jesus had a tough life. I read about that guy. Jesus is the only guy that ever came back from the dead that didn't scare the fuck out of everybody, man. He's the only guy that ever crawled out of a grave where people didn't go, oh, oh! Oh, I just saw some fucker crawl out of his grave! I don't believe I'm seeing this shit! Did you see that? This guy just crawled out of his box through the earth! People are losing and going, oh, 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 the dead live, the dead live. Go get a stake, put a stake in his ass. Cut off his head, kill him again. Jesus comes back, he doesn't get any pressure, no static, nobody's upset. He climbs out, he's walking around, nobody's upset. They can eat with him and everything, you know. It's like, isn't that guy dead? Yeah, but he's real stubborn, man. He won't accept it. Pass the butter.
Well, my older brother and I are preaching in Oklahoma City. And we're on the radio. We're in this crusade. We're on the radio. And after the service is over, we get a call from Sam. And he's in Oklahoma City, been hitchhiking across the country. He'd got in, somebody had picked him up and had this radio station on, and he recognized us. And so we picked him up. He was 16 at that time, so we picked him up at the Capitol and, had this ballin', reunion. And then the funny thing was is that my mother was in Tulsa, which is where we were going. And he made me call Mom before he would go, make sure everything's right so she wouldn't kill him or whatever.
We went into church, and his mom said, now, you're going to preach this weekend? He goes, oh, yeah, I'll preach. And I'm going, wow, this guy's going to preach. Well, the next morning, I wake up in my bed, and there's a radio. I turn the radio on, and good morning, listeners. Boy, Lord has something in plan for you if you just wake up and believe in Him. And I'm going, that sounds like Sam. And sure enough, they have a radio station in their house, and where his father had his radio show out of. And it was Sam on the radio. And I listened to it for like 15 minutes, and it was just perfect. It wasn't fake. It wasn't send your money. It was real honest talk about God.
With preaching, you have a lot of, comedy, people just expect you to make them laugh, so. Preaching, the churches I was in, they expect you to do a lot more, change their lives, heal them, give them the right information about life and God, and that's a heavy responsibility. So I guess it's easier to be a comedian. I've been doing it longer, so I must be having a better time.
It's one thing to stand up in front of a bunch of people at night who maybe are having a couple of drinks and they want to laugh, and that's why they're there in the first place, and they actually get mad at you if you don't make them laugh. It's another thing to go to a place on Sunday morning and to get people to actually open up their wallets and hand you money.
And he also said he started preaching that Jesus wasn't coming back, that He was already here, He was inside you. You had to find Him.
I don't preach too much anymore, as far as to myself. God had me go and become a stand-up comic. Amen. So I'm preaching to me too. Amen. Come on. That's where the best word comes from, when you're not afraid to expose, amen, your own flaws and examine yourself. That's how you get delivered. You get delivered by this. Also, what can defile a man can deliver a man. David did the reverse of that scripture. David delivered himself. He preached to himself, said, Saul, why are you bound? So also what cometh out of a man can deliver him and procure him. Amen. That'll save you a lot of phone calls, won't it? Come on, that way if you don't get in touch with Brother and Sister Marnie, it'll be all right because you're walking with deliverance inside of you. You can deliver yourself. You can say, well, I didn't get in touch with Brother Rich or Brother Marnie or Brother Sam or Brother Bill or Sister Marnie, but praise God, I've got the word of deliverance. What am I sitting here for? I can deliver myself. I can change my mood. I can do an about face. God gave that power to me too.
He said that didn't go over too good in the church. He said they were trying to preach fear. And he goes, here I was going, no, don't worry about that. He's already here. He's in here. And I, what? I mean, we don't have to give money every week? Nah.
You know, and he go, man, that was great tonight. When I go, yeah, you laughed your money right out the back door.
People who come from that kind of background, the evangelical, play to crowds in lots of ways.
Were you a serious minister?
Yeah, I was. I just have kind of a relationship with God, you know. It's kind of like Colonel Sanders' fried chicken. It's got several secret herbs and spices.
Why did you leave it? That was a good moneymaker, wasn't it?
I became disillusioned. I was never into the offering side of it. You know, I've been put out a basket, and I say, hey, if I've blessed you and you want to bless me, here's the basket. I didn't do very well, actually.
You were not a good minister.
No, well, not financially. I didn't rake in the bucks.
He was definitely, I think, rebelling against the hypocrisy of all those evangelists.
I wish they would understand that people basically, I think, know who Jesus is. Maybe I'm guessing, maybe I'm way out of line here, but I have a good feeling that generally Americans and the people throughout the world know who Jesus is. So it's a little frustrating to keep hearing about how that, you know, we need your dollars, we need your help, because we want people to know who Jesus is. Hey, we know who Jesus is. Get a fucking job.
And he saw how corrupt it was, by the way. You know, because all these guys would, you know, oh, lovely healing hands. I see a 9-foot God. I need your money. Yeah.
Oh, good. Don't get me started on that fucking subject. Oh, man. The amusement parks is what killed me. How they scam people into believing that Jesus wants us to build a Ferris wheel. And then, God willing, by this spring, we'll have our own log ride. Hallelujah. For he said, he that believeth in me, yea, shall not be able to ride this ride unless he is over this height. The fuck are they talking about, man? You know, thought it was something to do with clothe the naked, feed the hungry, you know, shelter the homeless. No. No, God wants us to have a mall with 104 stores in it, so people don't have to shop with the sinner and the unbeliever. They can come and shop with only Christians. God's mall. And people are like, that makes sense to me. I'm writing out a check.
When you deal with comedians, people sort of bring a backstory with them when they come to Los Angeles. Some may be true, some may be fake. I always heard that about Sam. It wasn't until later I found out it was true.
Like a preacher, he got you right there where he wanted you, and then he cut it loose.
But I read the resurrection story. If you ever have some chance, if you ever have a time to read this, what an amazing story.
You know, you think you're standing on safe ground, and all of a sudden the floor falls up from under you.
Guy's dead for 3 days. He comes back, you know. None of his friends shook up about it. He comes back with a whole new message and shit, you know. I'm reading this, and it's an exciting story, but I read it and I thought, I know Jesus was never married. Guy never had a wife. No, he was never married, because no wife would buy this story in 100 years. The disciples will, the believers will. No wife would buy this fucking story. Good luck. Good luck with this story. First of all, he leaves on Friday afternoon with 12 other guys. He's gone for 3 days. No message, no way to get in touch with her. He comes home Monday afternoon looking like he hasn't slept. And seems like he's partied out, man. And Mrs. Jesus is just waiting, going, oh, okay, I guess it's day 3 of this show. Oh, great. Well, I'm glad you can find your way home, Savior. Where's your 12 friends who won't get a job? How are they at? Yeah, disciples my ass. They're losers. Every one of them are using it. You're not even smart enough to know it. Anybody says, I believe, we put them up and feed them. I'm secular. Where are you at? Jesus is going, I don't need this shit. Not after what I went through this weekend. No, honey, I'll tell you right now. Come here. Come here. Come here. I'll tell you where I've been. First of all, not that it ruined your weekend any, but I was dead! Do you understand that, you fucking bitch? I was dead! While you were sitting here on your ass, I'm in a grave outside of town. I'm fighting death, hell, decomposure. I'm about to come into spiritual form and go into the kingdom of God. I go, wait a second. I better go back because she doesn't know where I've been. So now I gotta fight the angel of death, get my fucking soul back, crawl out of the grave, come home to this shit because I missed you, honey!
He was a natural to appeal to crowds. Now, the method he chose was anger, but he could have appealed in lots of ways. His method was anger. What I liked about Sam was that was an honest anger.
People are going, man, aren't you afraid to tell jokes like that? Don't you have just a small chill that runs through your fucking blood when you tell a story or jokes like that? No. No, folks, because I'm not worried about hell. You go, just think I might go to hell? No. Because I was married for 2 fucking years! Hell would be like Club Med! Hell would be like a fucking resort, man.
And you left it, why? Because it wasn't proving fruitful?
Well, I got a divorce, and it was like 1978.
In the ministry, that is it. Man, you can be a homosexual. Nobody will think anything. You can be a con man, a sham, or anything else. Fine. You get a divorce, that's like the death knell.
He said that a preacher couldn't preach after getting a divorce because here you are teaching wisdom and strength and spiritual strength to a flock, and yet you can't handle your own marriage.
And I sat my family down Christmas time. I said, I'm leaving the ministry. And they thought I was going through a phase. And they said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a comedian. They went, yeah, sure. I said, no, really, I'm going to try to be a stand-up comic. I think I can make people laugh. I've made them laugh in church, and if you can make people laugh in church, you can make them laugh anywhere, I think.
First time that Sam had ever been successful in his life was in comedy in Houston, Texas.
He wore a suit on stage. His hair was real short, and he knew how to wear a suit. Now, I was 20 years old, so he would have been 26. But he carried a power with the suit. And, I mean, at that point, I didn't even know how to tie a tie yet, And I said, wow, this guy's carrying something a little bit different. So when he got off stage, I go, where'd you get the suit? And he goes, oh, I was a preacher for years. I got a ton of these. And I go, oh, really? So he explained to me how he could take a crowd over and stuff because he knew how to walk right up there and go, oh, yes, God's got something for you today,
Sam's in Houston. He's doing all this, I don't know. He really doesn't have a lot of material, but he's funny.
One night he said, watch what I'm going to do tonight. He went on stage and he started doing his act. And this was in Texas. Now, there's like 60 seats in this small club. And a lot of cowboy hats. The boys wouldn't take their hats off. They'd sit right up front, have their cowboy hats on, they'd be judging you. Come on, be funny, come on.
You got to remember, you're in Houston, Texas. I mean, you got like shit kickers, everything else down there. Here's a guy from Illinois.
He goes, you guys had a great night tonight, and you've seen a lot of comedy, but I guess you never expected this to happen.
The guy would be there with his date. Sam would jump off stage, throw the guy on the floor, there with his cowboy boots, his jeans, and start humping him, homosexual raping the guy.
Grabbed the guy and threw him on the floor and just started hunching on him. He goes, you never thought you'd be homosexually raped right in the middle of a show, did you? Woo-hoo!
And everybody'd just be dying. I'd go, dude, one of these days somebody's just going to beat the crap out of you. But I think he was so intimidating on stage that even the cowboys didn't want to mess with him.
And, of course, the place would go nuts, and everybody would come back the next week to see that crazy guy who would rape the 300-pound cowboy in the front row,
And he's there about, I would say maybe 3 months. And Rodney Dangerfield comes and plays at the Civic Center.
I first met Sam. I was doing a show in Houston, in Texas, and when the show was over, they said, "Want to go to a little comedy club in town?" Went to a comedy club, and Sam was one of 4 comics working there.
Rodney, as he would back in those days, and Sam did later on, really from what Rodney did for him, is he'd go to the local comedy clubs. Well, he came over to the Comedy Annex. It so happened that when he's there, Sam's on stage.
He was young and raw and everything else, but he was by no means a finished product.
I know a lot of comics, they try to make an impression and try to get the audience to like them, and I think that's important for some comics. But me, I take a little different approach. So I have a different outlook on life than most people you can see up here tonight. You know what you people are going to have in common? What? You're going to wish to God you never saw me.
And then he'd say something that made you understand, accept that. Ah!
You'll walk out of here unified and with one thought, I wish to God I never saw him! Ah! You will beg God to forget my face! Ah!
But you can hear that scream of his, you know.
People were talking about him like, hey, there's this guy who screams, he's really funny.
There wasn't just a scream, there was substance.
But even the show was over, though, I asked to speak to him for a couple of minutes. He came over and joined me at the table, and we talked a while. And even then, he was like something weird, even though he was very young and not developed at all, you know.
Said, hey, all women can't be that way. There's some good ones out there somewhere. There's some women that know what it means to commit, to be faithful, to be one in love, engulfed in passion. But you know what? I haven't met any like that yet. All I have met are whores, liars, bitches from hell.
Oh, I think it was shock value, but nevertheless, it still said something.
The only kind that turned me on.
The deal back then was pretty much, you know, you don't say shit, you don't say fuck, you don't say any of these words. I mean, you know, it's clean, all that. Well, Sam's the wrong guy. He got out of church, man, and it's like, you know, he's got this newfound liberty now. He can say fuck, and nobody's going to go, oh, man. And he found out people laugh at it. It was cheap laugh, but they laugh at it.
He got kicked out of the club for starting a riot. And one night, he weighed 240 at the time, and he was trying to lose weight, conscious of his weight. And they had a real cheap little stool back in those days on this particular stage, and we'd almost broken it one night doing a sketch. Well, they didn't replace it, and so Sam went up to sit on it after a full night of comedians. He's seen everyone else sit on this thing, and he went up and sat on it, and it cracked and broke. Well, it embarrassed him, and he jumped up and he goes, this cheap stuff, and why do they even have it? And turns around and starts hitting the wall with this stool. Well, with that, everybody else jumps up, and they throw their stools up against the wall, and the place goes nuts. Well, it was a great excuse for management to kick him out of the club.
Sam decides, you know, he's been there 2 years. He's been he's voted the comedian of the year both years he's been there for the state of Texas. So he thinks LA's going to be a walk. He'll be out here 6 months at the most, and he'll be on top. He comes to LA, and he finds out what a real ass kicking is. He runs into Mitzi Shore at the Comedy Store. He tells him, you're not funny. You're just not funny, but you can be a doorman if you want.
His impression of my first 4 years at the Comedy Store. Hi, table for four, follow me. That's all we did was set people. We hardly ever got on stage. Sam and I had this scam because we would have to walk like 7 miles to the Comedy Store every night. We lived in some apartment buildings that were on the other side of Laurel Canyon. We'd have to walk all the way across the hill and down and hope to make some money so we could eat that night. So we had a scam worked out the door where we'd come with like $5 or $6 in our pocket together. One of us would take it, walk a group to a table, and come back while, let's say, Sam was standing at the door with another group of 4. I'd walk up and go, Sam, here's your half of the tip. And people would think, oh, we have to tip the doorman. That's how we made money. You know, we'd survive and we'd come across with $15, $20 at the end of the night and go, we've got cat fare home. We don't have to walk.
He was just kind of the screaming doorman at the time. And then he became a comedian from that. It's fascinating to watch people grow from these beginnings because you go, what's wrong with this guy? Why is he screaming all the time?
He yelled. And then the subject matter was something else, you know. He went everywhere. I mean, he took you through it all. A trip he did.
You know, it wasn't even performing at the very beginning. It was just sort of screaming. He would get up there and scream. But the fact that it was so intense and that it wasn't fake, it was fascinating to watch. You know, because a lot of people will put on an act, and if they're not very good, I mean, if it's not real, you know, it's a gimmick. It looks like a gimmick. But Sam would get up there in the same way, well, I don't know if it's a good analogy or not, but when a child just sort of screams, It's obviously screaming for a reason, and it can't express it. And Sam would get up there and just, my girlfriend, and just start screaming.
She took it all! That fucking bitch! She took my act! I was married for 2 years, and I think someone with a primal scream!
But he didn't say a joke or anything, but it would be very funny because it was obviously so real. Now, this guy is obviously in some incredible mental anguish, and you would watch it for that reason. Then, of course, later he learned how to put the jokes together and make routines out of it.
He was divorced at that time. Then I guess it would have been 84 that he had been married for about a year or so. And he married a woman that wanted to have a normal lifestyle and assumed that he was going to be a normal guy. I went to pick him up one afternoon, and he lived in an old apartment building. I just went to knock on his door, and I heard dishes flying in. What? Screaming and hollering. Oh, yeah. And so I just waited for a minute. And then he came out of the door flying out, and he goes, oh, I'll be right with you. It was like a cartoon. And it was funny for 5 minutes, and then I realized the guy's really serious. He's fighting for his life in there, man.
He comes to the Comedy Store, and he comes on like 2 o'clock in the morning because Mitzi don't want to put him on with everybody else. And so, but he has such a following that she puts him on last.
He goes on stage, and he talks 2 minutes, and then he asks this kid in the front row, you ever been married? You ever think about getting married? Well, if you ever think about it, remember this face.
You ever been married? What's your name? Mike? Mike, if you ever think about getting married, if you ever think I've met the right woman, I want to settle down, this is her, I want to change my life, Mike, do me a favor, will you? Remember this face. Because if you get married, Mike, that's going to be your fucking face, pal. Every day you wake up, you look in the mirror, you go, what did I do? What did I do?
He connected with the pain and horror of rejection and isolation.
Because he's a man, obviously, he's dealing with these women issues from a man's point of view. And that, you know, he was in hell in these relationships. One of my favorite things that he said was after he broke up with someone that he really loved, and then she would keep calling him. You know, she would keep calling him, but not to go out, just to use him for an emotional tampon.
Rodney Dangerfield enters the picture again. And Rodney is getting ready to do either it's the first annual or second annual Young Comedian Special. And he's already got it all cast, but he happens to be at the Comedy Store. Sam's up, and he decides he wants Sam to, he's going to bump somebody, which to this day, Rodney's never told myself or Sam who he bumped.
And so I was doing an HBO show then, and I said to him, be in the HBO show with me, you know?
Sam never did contests, because he never would have won one. You know, with his kind of comedy, you never would have won a comedy contest. So Sam tells him, said, I don't do contests. You know, Rodney's going, I want you to do this HBO showcase. No, I don't do contests, right? Rodney calls me, and he goes, hey, you know, your brother's missing a good chance out here. You know, I'm talking to him, and he won't do this thing. And I go, Rodney, he doesn't do contests. And I'll never forget Rodney going, what the fuck is it with you guys, man? It's not a goddamn contest.
And he said, I can't do it. He says, because the way I'm working, he says, I need time. He says, I can't cook in 6 minutes. I need 15 minutes before I can cook, you know?
But Sam would start off really slow and just draw it out before he got going because he didn't have 25 minutes yet.
So I said to him, I says, no, I says, you can cook right away, man. You don't have to wait no 15 minutes. Go out, you got to style it. You're going to start in right away, you know?
I looked at world hunger realistically. I go, wait a second, I can solve this shit. I got a weekend free. I'll solve it. You know what the problem is with world hunger? We've been sending them food. Go on in, world hunger. Stop sending them food. Send them U-Hauls, luggage, some buses, some public transportation, and send us spokesmen out and go, you know, nobody ever called your country smart, but we're not dumb, all right? And it just occurred to us that we've been doing this for like 60, 70 years, bringing you pizza and fucking donuts and shit out here every day, making the trip. And today we thought we'd do something different. Yeah, we thought we'd put your fucking ass on the truck and take you to where the food is. Right? Because you live in a desert. See this shit? It's sand. You live in a desert. You know what's going to be 100 years from now? It's going to be a fucking desert. Winchell's isn't open up a donut chain out of your asshole. You live in sand. What are you going to do?
in the truck. We're taking where the food is. We have deserts in America. We just don't live in them, asshole.
Sam is kicked out of his house here in L.A. and is on the streets when it shows on HBO. But he immediately went from $35 a night to $12,000 a night. Never really ever did the comedy club circuit. I mean, he basically went straight from the Comedy Store to venues. Off of that, 6 minutes on HBO. But I mean, everybody remember. They remember the yell.
For some reason, I bring out something to people. They just can't come up and go, you know, I enjoy your work. You're a funny guy. It always has to be, oh, oh, oh!
I remember we had so hard for he and I to get used to because we went to Vegas right after he hit. That's how they'd all greet him. So we'd be on the escalator at the Caesar's Palace or something, and these, guys come up behind you and just scare the shit out of you, going, ah! And you're like, oh, God, what the hell's going on here?
One by one, as the cars would come out of the parking lot and go past him, people would roll down their windows and, scream, ah, at him.
There's a 65-year-old man and his 65-year-old wife on the elevator, and they're both standing there listening to these 3 or 4 people talk about the gig, and then they look over and the old man goes, hey, aren't you the guy that... You're the... Ah, ah! He goes, why couldn't I came up with a mime bit that made me famous? Hey, aren't you the...
A mall is scary. Going to a mall is scary because it just it echoes. And people go, what's that screaming about? Oh, it's him! It's him! Oh, ah!
I thought one of the gems of his career was when he hosted Saturday Night Live.
Which was the week that John F. Kennedy had been shot. It was the anniversary, I believe it was, or Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King's death was the week that Sam was on Saturday Night Live as a comedic guest.
Did you ever notice that? If it tries to change the world, it really helps it, we fucking shoot him. Started with Jesus, probably even before that, I don't know. Then Abraham Lincoln, right? You free to? Anybody tries to help, I swear to God, look at history. Anybody tries to bring peace and love in the world, their new name is Target. Your new name is Target, all right? It's true, look at Gandhi, right? Gandhi, he tried to change his world. Well, what do we have for him, Johnny? Sadat, remember Sadat, right? He was going to change the Middle East. He was going to bring peace to the Middle East, something that hasn't been done in 1,000 years. They said, yeah, Sadat, listen, we're having a parade this morning. Why don't you wear something bright, okay? Yeah, we got some great fireworks for you, pal. You're going to like these. Sit down real fucking close to the front. It's true. Anybody that's ever tried to help, right? The Kennedys, Martin Luther King. I have a dream! Oh, shit! I have a fucking head wound! Thanks a lot! That's true. Anybody tries to help, we shoot him, man. Everybody, man. Fucking John Lennon, right? Everybody tries to help, we shoot him. That's why they only wounded Reagan.
But I think the infamous show that everybody's probably going to remember is when he got censored.
I was banned off Saturday Night Live once, and then they asked me back 2 weeks later to host.
They want him to cut 2 routines. And one is the war on drugs.
I said if, they wanted to get people to stop smoking crack, to give us our pot back.
And the other was nailing Jesus to the cross on the NBC stage.
I don't know if Jesus has actually spoken in an audible voice to anybody in about 2,000 years, folks. I think his last words may have been,
Oh, not the other one. Oh, you jerk. No.
It was just so alive. It was so spectacular. And, he did the bit about, Jesus is on the cross.
30, 40 Christians standing around going, it's a shame that he has to die. And Jesus is going,
well, maybe I wouldn't have to. Somebody get a ladder and a pair of pliers.
So I go, what are you going to do? And he says, I'm doing them. And I go, well, just know what the consequences are if you're going to do it. You're messing with NBC.
He's up in heaven right now. They're going, why don't you go back down to earth? Be a symbol of peace and love to the world. Help. And he's going, yeah, sure. Help, huh? Yeah, I'd like to help. Tell him I'll be there as soon as I can play the piano
again! Thanks a lot, like being the only savior that can use his hand as a fucking whistle!
And you know that he wasn't supposed to do that. And he went beyond the censors, and that's what made him great.
Brandon Tartikoff, he goes on, in the media, and he goes, Sam Kinison will never work NBC again, everything else. And for one of the few times, Sam listens to me and keeps his mouth shut. I'm going, man, just keep, because we got everybody wants to interview him. I'm going, just keep your mouth shut. Man, let's get into damage control. If you keep your mouth shut, maybe, everything will work out.
I remember agents talking about, oh, that's the end of him, that's the end of him.
Well, I'm talking to Lorne Michaels off and on, right? And so it gets to the point that Lorne tells me, man, people are sending in shit. And I go, what? They're sending in, bad letters or what? I said, no, they're putting shit in envelopes. They are putting human feces in envelopes and sending it to NBC.
And then he came back, they invited him back, so it just shows, go for the muff, I say. Go for the muff, Don't tone down for these pigs.
I remember I watched his progression. He came on as an act on it once. It was kind of so unbridled that they sensed they had lightning in a jar, and they made him the host then. Everybody was glad to see him because we liked him. But comedians are so competitive anyway. I remember us all being a little subtly pissed that one of our ilk was now hosting a show we were on.
We are a vicious group. We're nice people, but we're bad. I don't mean no harm, but that's the truth.
There's some difference to the host, and we were having trouble submitting to that yoke with one of our own. That's that feisty little gladiator camp, Saturday Night Live.
You'd see a guy walking around with a foot in his mouth, and you say, well, how do you get that foot? And then you see the guy with no foot, and you go, oh, that's why.
Welcome to Contemporary American History. I'm Professor Turgerson.
He was a great actor. Sam was a great actor, That's why when he was in back to school with me, I put him in there to write a part quick, and he was great in that, He was a great actor, Sam,
A lot of people think history is just facts. It's just information about the past, but not me. I hold history very sacred. Sacred. The way the farmer looks at the earth and he holds it sacred. The way a Christian takes the Bible and he holds it sacred. The way a lot of people hold their marriage sacred. That's how I feel about it. So why don't we dive right in by interpreting one of the easiest events in the last 20 years of American history. Now, can someone tell me why in 1975 we pulled our troops out of Vietnam?
The failure of Vietnamization to win popular support caused an ongoing erosion of confidence in the various American but illegal Saigon regimes.
Is she right? Because I know that's the popular version of what went on there. I know a lot of people like to believe that. I wish I could, but I was there. I wasn't here in a classroom hoping I was right, thinking about it. I was up to my knees in rice paddies with guns, and then we're going up against Charlie, slugging it out with him, while pussies like you were back here partying, putting headbands on, doing drugs, listening to the goddamn Beatle albums.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you? These kids, they were in grade school at the time. And me, I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover.
Well, I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper. But since you want to help, maybe you can help me, okay? You remember that thing we had about 30 years ago called that Korean conflict? Yeah, where we failed to achieve victory. How come we didn't cross the 38th parallel and push those rice eaters back to the Great Wall of China and take the Berkeley brick and nuke them back into the fucking Stone Age River? How come? Tell me why? Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it. Because Truman was too much of a pussy wimp to let MacArthur go in there and blow out those commie bastards.
Good answer. Good answer. I like the way you think. I'm gonna be watching you.
A good teacher. He really seems to care. About what, I have no idea.
And you got to work, I told him, where you can look good. You see, Sam, when he did a show on HBO or Showtime, or a place where you can express yourself, that's what he needed. And when he went to the networks, he was confined. And therefore it created a problem for him, which he didn't need. He should let himself only work where you look good. And he looked best when he could express himself any way he wanted to, you know.
I guarantee you the first time, every guy in this room, the very first time they had to lick pussy, they were on their own. Was anybody there, guy? No, we were on our own. We didn't know what we were doing. We were bluffing. We hoped it felt good. We hoped it was right. We didn't know. Nobody helps you figure this shit out. We didn't get any pamphlets from the fucking government. Mom and dad are no fucking roadmap. What are you gonna do? Ask them for sexual advice. Help yourself. Go, Mom, Dad, you know, I met this girl and she really is special. And I really wanted to make an impression on her, so I was wondering, could you help me out? How do you lick pussy? Just give me some hints. Give me some other pops I could use. And yeah, sure, help yourself. Nobody helps you, man. You got to figure this shit out on your own. Women won't help you. Women won't help you. Women won't give you a fucking clue. They enjoy your awkwardness. You can lick a woman's pussy the wrong way for 5 years, and she won't tell you. She won't tell you. No, she just laid there with that sexually frustrated look on her face. Like, she won't tell you. She'll tell everybody else. She'll tell her mom, her girlfriends, her hairdresser, her little sisters, everybody else, man. Well, he's just not sensitive. He doesn't know my needs. He doesn't know enough to shave and make his face smooth. And he doesn't hold me after I come. But she won't tell you. That's why guys are on their own. That's why I try to help. Because I've been through this, folks. I've learned the hard way. Gentlemen, I'm just trying to help, I swear to God. Just trying to help, fucking A, man, trying to help. Yo, Sam, how can we do it? How can we do it? If no one will help us. Well, this is why I came back, guys, because most guys don't know what they're doing. They're awkward. We don't know. We have to be shown, ladies. You have to tell us. You have to show us. Most guys lick pussy like they're painting a fucking fence. They don't know what they're doing. They've got one stroke with it. The girls go, Jesus Christ, we're being licked or weatherproofed, hey! This is why, guys, I have a secret for you that'll transform you tonight. You walk out of here tonight, not just your average person. You guys are gonna want my dream. I'll just be honest here, can't we? Everybody has a dream. Mine isn't for world peace. Mine isn't that all people should live in one, all that shit. Mine is that every guy walks out of here tonight knowing how to lick pussy better than he ever has in his entire life. It's not a big dream. It's not a big dream. It's a small one, but I'd like to see every guy here walk out of these doors like an Oriental lick master from the Far East. Yeah. Say, Sam, how can that happen? How is it possible? Well, the next time you have a woman that you want to impress, you want to show her the most exciting sexual time of her life. You want to be the darkest chapter in her sexual diary. You have to make a statement about yourself as a lover. She deserves 100% of your sexual creativity. What you do is lick the alphabet. Just lick the alphabet. That's all you gotta do. Big capital letters, fucking. It's an easy diagram to remember. Big capital letters just go A, B, C. She thinks you're from Europe or something. Going, oh God, where did he learn that? Oh, you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. It works. It works. I know there's some doubters. I see the faces. I see guys who go, Sam, this alphabet thing has some humor to it. But I'm a pretty confident lover. I don't need this stuff. I have my own style. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah? Well, let me make it bad, okay? How about the next time you lick pussy, whether it's in 3 years, 3 months, or in 3 hours, the next time you have to lick a woman. Guess what little thought's gonna walk through your mind? Let me show you how the subliminal thought process works, guys. You're gonna be licking away, and you're gonna hear the haunting theme. Now I know my ABC's time. That's the haunting alphabet thing. That's right, Sam Kinison. God damn it. The alphabet. I was doing a W and I didn't even know it. Well, while I'm down here, why don't I write a letter to Santa?
You're going to have him preaching then telling people how to eat pussy on the same tape. You're a bad guy.
They don't mind waving that fucking dildo in your face, do they? Again, the vibrators. Yeah, that's all right. How much of intimidation have you taken with that shit? They grab the vibrator and go, here's my man. He doesn't have to stay up all night with his friends. You go, let me see that, honey. It doesn't seem to be able to pick up the check, does it?
I think live performance in front of an audience, I don't think there's probably anything more difficult. That kind of performance is, I don't know how you do that and then stay straight after you come off stage. I mean, it's like such a high.
Yeah, it's hard. And you get up there and that's all there is, you and whatever you say or do. There is no more but that moment in the world, you know, and you hope maybe the atom bomb drops while you're on stage so you don't have to finish, you know me? Because it's tough.
Amyl nitrate.
I think one of the biggest tragedies probably of his life is that with his alcoholism and then with the cocaine abuse and things like that, is that he found out early on, even before he made it, that he could do that and still be funny.
We all have problems, you know. Everybody does. And sometimes people with Sam has had his problems too, as we know. But sometimes when someone is that great, he's like a kid. If he does something, you forgive him.
I personally always thought that Sam didn't have a childhood where he could go through all the stuff that you go through when you start to argue with your parents, go out and drink, go ahead and, you know, you're growing up, you blow through a lot of stuff that you need to learn. He started doing comedy. Like he didn't smoke a joint. I knew him for the first 2 years of knowing him. He didn't even smoke a joint. He used to rag on me and his brother all the time. You know, how can you guys smoke that? And he goes, well, you know, you guys are crazy, man. You know, so he tries it, and 2 weeks later, he's bought more than anybody else, and he's got the, come on, roll it, come on, hurry, I'm on, hurry.
He could stay up 2 or 3 days and barely be able to walk, but if you got him on stage, the adrenaline would pick up, and he was still funnier than 90% of the comedians out there.
I love to party. I love to celebrate with people and have a great time. I love to get a great group of interesting people, put them together, rent like a group of limos, and then hit everybody else's parties. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of fun.
I always told people, I said, Sam brought me close to God. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, because when you left his house after a party, you go, oh, thank you, Jesus. Thank you.
A lot of times I wanted him to fall on his ass, so I'd go, Sam, see what it's doing? What it's doing? Because I would try to tell him that, and he'd go, dude. Matter of fact, his favorite saying to him was, just pass me the ball. Just pass me the ball. I can carry it. Just pass me the ball.
Because you're in the limelight, because you're a celebrity and you look like you're a party animal, people assume you can do supernatural amounts of narcotics, of drugs. So I go to these little parties, right? And everybody else's line is like about an inch long. It's like, hey, man, we're doing coke, buddy. You know, little inch line long. I come in and go, oh, it's Kinison! Oh, here's your line! You know, it's like 2 feet long. There's rocks in it you could put in your driveway. It's not chopped up. I don't get a straw. I get a piece of a garden hose. Because I want to make sure it all goes through. Here, go, man, go, 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 you know. So I'm trying to live up to the image. Oh, get out of my way, what? touch me! And I would sniff all this shit up. About 2 minutes later, I'm walking around the party going...
First, Sam could never party as much as everybody said he could. And the next thing was that Sam never did anything worse than blow. Sam never ever shot up. And then what was really funny is the last probably year and a half of his life, maybe even 2 years of his life, he couldn't do cocaine anyhow because his heart had got chemically sensitive.
Hey, man. Hey, man, have you got any shoe polish or something I can drink to slow this down? You think shoe polish will kill you? I need something, man. There's nothing left to drink? I wish you'd have told me that before I did this 2-foot-long line. You fuck. All right. Well, listen, you guys keep partying. I'm going to go ahead and lay down and beg God to live for a while, all right? I'm just going to go ahead and lay down. You guys keep rocking. Keep rocking, man.
If you think I'm kidding, you just come out to Los Angeles sometime and I'll prove it to you. Because if you think this word just excites you, you're wrong. Amen. I can walk in, Sister Laura, to a room, 200 or 300 alcoholics and drunks and miserable, depressed people, Brother Marnie, that are just so discouraged that they'll pay $6.50 and a 2-drink minimum to laugh.
Sam was really, I think, a rock and roller at heart.
Yeah, he wasn't even so much the shock comedian as he was the rock and roll comedian.
He was like a rock and roll experience, by the way.
And his real desire, I think if Sam really had a desire he wanted to do, it would have been to be a rocker.
A lot of my audience is metal rock and young people and
Is this
teenagers.
the real you, Sam?
This is the real me, Larry.
Or this is not a shtick?
It's not a stick. Well, it's probably a touch of stick. And there's a little hook involved.
There's got to be a little hook.
A little hook. I'm 36.
And he taught himself how to play the guitar, taught himself how to play the piano. Every instrument he played, he taught himself how to do. And, you know, he was better than average at it.
I wrote this about this girl that I met about 5 years ago. I was going to come out with some money, you know, and try to live out here for a while, and I met this girl, and I wanted to impress her, you know, so we went through all my cash in about a year. Then one day she said, you know, Sam, there's something missing from our relationship. I said, well, it wouldn't be the cash by any chance, would it, honey? She said, no, we found so many special things about each other. I hate to see it all go to waste because the passion's gone. She says, can't we still, like, see each other once in a while and have lunch or see a movie or just to be friends? I said, yeah, friends. I think I know what you mean. I become some kind of emotional tampon that you need 4 or 5 days a month. But no one else will take your fucking bullshit. But we don't fuck. Isn't that about right, honey? That's what friends is. We don't fuck, right? She said, well, yeah, that's kind of it. I wrote her this song. It goes like this. You fucking whore! You used me! You never loved me! I hope you slide under a gas truck and taste your own fucking blood! Die! I want my records back! I want my fucking records back!
Half the people are laughing, the other half of the crowd's going, what kind of jokes are these?
I'm not offended by anything anybody does in their act. Whenever I hear that somebody is doing an act, they can do pretty much whatever they want, and I can like it or dislike it, but I'm not shocked.
I don't want to put the gay lifestyle down. Oh, they see through me again! I didn't pull it off, oh shit!
I wish I'd have known him better to know how much of that was forced and how much was real.
AIDS has really made it a popular sport, huh?
You never know that in a performer because you never know when an actor's acting. Sometimes because they do it all the time.
I made one joke and I said that they say heterosexuals die of AIDS too. Name one. And I throw the mic out in the audience, you know. It was like Capital Vermont.
And off that one joke, you are known as a gay basher?
I became a gay basher, and all of a sudden I was, you know,
are you saying that
targeted by these anti heterosexual groups.
I mean, it wasn't like the gay community wasn't without social persecution before this disease. It isn't exactly like they were being greeted by veterans by home. Well, there's one! God bless you, buddy!
I bet that there were some places in Sam's life where, yes, he was purging for us.
I'm not against the cure for AIDS. What are they, fucking nuts? I want to see that disease cured.
But also he was just saying exactly, you know, what he really, really felt, and we kind of put him in that position.
AIDS is really, oh man. Thanks, guys. Thanks for giving us the Black Plague of the 80s. Thanks!
Sam never felt like, and he made it very clear, I don't feel like AIDS is a gay disease, but if you think the public doesn't perceive it that way, you're nuts, which is what he would tell them.
He was saying something. A lot of people couldn't figure out what it was, but there was something there. It wasn't just a man yelling obscenities. There was actual pain, there was real emotion, and even though if you didn't like it, you would say, well, this should be obscene, but it really was sort of what the First Amendment is about. No, just listen to him, you know.
Oh, it's nice to have to go to a public restroom and use your foot for everything. If I can open the door, you know, flush the toilet, turn on the sink, you know.
And he started getting a lot of controversy from the gay rights movements, and they would show up at the shows and protest.
Do you now do more gay humor because of...
No, matter of fact, in my next album, I did some medically correct jokes because they said my jokes weren't medically correct in my last album, which I remember when I went to medical school to write jokes, that was one of the big rules, was not to do any medically incorrect jokes.
There was never a time that went, hey, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Why don't we take a rodent and put it in my ass? That's got to be a buzz there. I'm missing out. People are doing this. I'm not making this shit up. People are doing this. And no one cares. Nobody gives a shit because it's rodents. We hate rodents. We set traps for them. We try to kill them. If they were dolphins, if they were tuna fish, God! Oh, would people be up in arms? What? They are putting tuna fish in their ass?
Sam had a way of taking something and you're sitting there laughing at it and you're feeling bad about it. You know, you're like chuckling, you're going, oh man, I hope nobody's seeing me laugh.
People ask comedians all the time, is there anything you won't do jokes about? And a lot of comedians are very, exhibit a lot of bravado and say, no, I go for anything. And they go for anything right up until the point where they see that their own marketability might be impinged upon.
I lost a family member to AIDS, and it was the first time where it just wasn't so funny. All of a sudden, it does touch everybody.
And I think Sam hit a place there where he felt he was about to incur the wrath of the general populace, because that's a dicey territory.
That kind of changed the tune of it, and then he dropped the bit completely.
At some point, it hits you. In the hour of the wolf, when you're alone at night and you're home and it's after the show, at some point, you do hear the resonance of, you're doing jokes about AIDS.
I thought he should have been above that. That was not a high point in his life.
Never create anything bigger than your act. That was probably, not that it was a mistake, but that's something that Sam did. He created this thing that had to get bigger. I mean, finally, near the end, when he had routines about necrophilia, how do you top that?
I mean, I just meant it as a joke because that's what I do. I tell jokes that people go, oh, God, you believe he said that?
I remember Sam used to always be pushed to be remember on the old TV show Combat, there was always one guy named Cage who had to take the point. Every day he'd go, Cage, take the point. Sam was Cage, and the point must have given him a headache periodically.
He was overindulgent in just about everything that he did. Eventually, once he found something he liked, then he would do it more than anybody. Everything was in excess, you know. And when he realized, I better slow this down, I obviously have a career and people look up to me, then he was very hardcore. But his problem was he didn't drop too many of his friends, you know. I'm going to change my life. Yeah, right. You know, he'd hang out with the people that wouldn't let him.
That was the old Sam. That was the devil-may-care Sam. The reckless, drug lord, alcoholic, boozing bastard from hell Sam. Oh, the one you guys missed. Yes, we all know what I've done. We all know.
His problem was he'd celebrate success, you know. hey man, I've been clean for 30 days. We did the TV show. Let's party for 3 weeks straight.
March 2nd, 1990, I stopped doing coke because I didn't know it was illegal. Thank you. Thank you for you that believe me. Thank you very much. For you that don't believe me, eat me. I'm alive, all right?
Sam had been clean. When I say clean, I'm talking about, you might have a 2-day spurge every 3 or 4 months. I'll never forget one of the last good talks we had was in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'll never forget it. And Sam has had a couple glasses of champagne, and I guess I would get this look on my face. And so he wanted me to go in the bathroom with him and talk. And, and he goes, man, when you get that look on your face, that hurts me more than anything because you're the one guy I hate to let down. And I know I let you down when I do something like this. And I'll never forget him standing there and going, dude, it used to be every night. Now it's just every 3 or 4 months, cut me a little slack.
I think we should all get about 7 or 8 Greyhound buses. And we go to a detox center. We all get on the buses, go to a detox center, one of these rehabs, and say, listen, we went to a Sam Kinison show. The man is family entertainment. He changed our lives. We're turning ourselves in. Oh, just all of us going. Then we get inside, and we break down our brothers! We break them out, you're free! Here's a beer, you're free! He set us free! He set us free! He set us free! Detox, there's a bargain. $13,000 for 3.5-week treatment. I called for a friend. Not for me personally. But I called up just to see what it cost. It was $13,000 for 3.5 weeks. And folks, I don't want to sound like a casual user or anything, but if you can come up with $13,000, you don't have a problem yet.
Drugs, I think, is just sort of a natural kind of thing, and I think it's a very dangerous trap from that world, and hopefully he was moving in the right direction.
We lost a lot of good people to that shit, and I just think if you're involved with it, get disinvolved with it, because you're just going to get busted or you're going to get sick and die. So that's all I got to say about that. But yeah, I've had those nights where you come in and you piss in your suitcase. Have you ever done that? That's fun. You're out on the road, you partied with the promoters and everybody, you're drunk and shit. You walk in, you lift open your suitcase thinking it's the toilet lid. And then you wake up next day to put something on, you go, fuck, hey, who pissed on my clothes? They go, you did, man, don't you remember? Don't you remember when you pissed on your clothes? He's like, no. No, I can't remember that. Because I think if I could have remembered it, I would have fucking done it. So I must have been pretty out of it to take a fucking piss on my clothes. Wouldn't you say? But I want to thank you guys for letting me do it. Thank you. I want to thank you for letting me be the home entertainment center last night. How many people did I actually show my dick to? Do you remember?
That's the great question of all time.
Laughter is an involuntary response, just like sneezing. If it's really funny, you can't help it.
Laughter cannot be you can't force me. You can't pull that ingredients out of me to make me laugh.
The best comedy is when you can relieve pressure that is built up about something that, is sad, and then you turn it around and make it happy.
Well, you'll find that laughter is something people need, especially in times of trouble and depression. In the times of depressions, financial depressions, or any kind of depressions, comedy is an escape. Comedy relief, that's what it's called. And people need relief in different areas. A lot of people go home and they buy their pint in the liquor store, go home and have a few shots, they're getting their relief. But if you can make someone laugh, it can how about girls? Even girls can fall in love with someone if they're making you happy and if you're laughing.
I think Sam was a cathartic thing. When you saw him, it really it touched on that anger that we all hold, and he gave us an outlet for it.
I've never been one to think that comedians act as sort of cathartic conduits for the general populace. I think there's a prime directive, and that's to get laughs.
I think you're probably looking way too deep. You laugh because it's funny. I mean, there's no other. It strikes something in you, or you laugh because it's ironic, or you laugh because you relate to it. But ultimately, you laugh because it's funny. I mean, let's be honest. You go out in the street and there are people screaming like Sam, and I'll tell you this. People got obviously Tourette's syndrome, or he's got some other problem. You laughed at him because it was funny. Really, that's the whole. If the man was not funny, we wouldn't be talking about it. Ultimately, it was his ability to go serious, 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 boom, funny.
I think Sam made us examine our own honesty. Truth is always funnier than fiction. Always is. And I think Sam hit nerves that we were afraid to laugh at.
He was fun to watch. I watched him every night for 13 years. Guy made me laugh every single time.
He opened up his weaknesses. There was nothing hidden in him. There was nothing sacred. And in so doing, he made us do that. And we got to laugh at ourselves while we were laughing at him. And I think that's why we laughed and wondered, why are we laughing? Because we was laughing at ourselves.
Why people have to laugh? Because it's in them. It's waiting. It's there. It's like in your gut, you know? And if somebody touches their gut, you know, I prefer to see people bend over, ache. You know, that means to me I did good. And Sam, you did it like that. You made people ache in their stomach. And fuck them if they can't take a joke. You know, or joke them if they can't take a fuck, you know.
I like the idea of Sam Kinison as a cult figure in a time of political correctness. The idea is funny.
Sam Kinison, one night at the Comedy Store, made myself and a good friend of mine, Jeff Cesario, laugh harder than I've ever laughed on the planet Earth. I can literally isolate it as the hardest I've ever laughed. And so when they asked me to do this, I thought, oh, I don't even know if Sam would dig that sort of bullshit. And then I thought, oh, you got to report that story. I just remember him being off on some profane, perverse, post-sacrilegious diatribe. There was hardly anybody there, and I was in the audience, and I was losing my breath, and I was pounding the table. I looked at Cesario, and it all hit me, the most pure understanding of comedy I've ever had, that it's the very involuntary nature of it that makes it so desirable. Everything else in your life, even indeed dramatic emotion, seems to be premeditated, or there's some DEFCON system that tells you it's about to come. You stage in from 5 to 4 to 3, but you never know where that big walloping motherfucker crease your skull with a pool cue laugh is coming from. And as I sat there in that moment, I said, I don't think I'll ever laugh this hard again. And I looked at Cesario and I said, is that the hardest you've ever laughed? And he couldn't even breathe. And I said, wow, I think we just entered the sanctum sanctorum.
Check this out. This is dark. This is it. He goes, Sam, when did we hit the bottom? This interesting sense of humor of yours. This is it. This is ground level, folks. This is the 7th level of granite rock right here. We fucking touched it. I read the paper. They said that a group of homosexual necrophiliacs have been going around to mortuaries offering them money to let them come in at night, spend a couple hours undisturbed with the freshest male corpse. I wasn't trying to sell this as a fucking home game, all right? It's a story I read, folks. Jesus Christ, give me a chance to do some journalistic reporting here, will ya? I felt the same way. I read this thing and went, oh, thanks for the visual! Hey, I felt sorry for these corpses, man. I mean, you'd think death would be bad enough, wouldn't you? I mean, the one thing that scares the shit out of everybody is death. You don't want to think about it. You don't joke about it. You put it out of your mind. But you figure if you faced it, that's it. What could be worse than fucking death? You figure, I got past death. I mean, you hated it, but at least you lived through it, you know? You got to buy it and all that shit. I felt sorry for these corpses because I know these guys were laying out on slabs. They're in there going, well, life was tough, and that was pretty hard to live up to. And I faced death, and I'm glad I went through it. And Well, now I'm ready to spend eternity in heaven, be with Jesus, and Rock of Ages. Hey, what's this shit? Oh, I don't believe this! There's a guy's dick in my ass! Oh, you mean life keeps fucking you in the ass even after you're dead? Oh, it never ends, it never ends! Oh! And I told a young man the other night he's going through a lot of torment and a lot of oppression because he lost a brother in a tragic way. And he's just going over his mind, and he's just living in such a guilt. And I said, let me tell you something. If this brother could tell you anything, he'd say, enjoy your life. Don't worry about me. I'm being taken care of. If there's a burden here, it's for you. This is what the Word said. The Word said, rejoice at a death. Because they're just being swallowed up into the love of God. They've never had it any nicer. There's no reason for sorrow when it comes to death. Because in God there is no death. Jesus said, any man who believes my word, hears my saying, shall not see death.
The people of this world scare me a lot more than the one in the next. I think that one's pretty much taken care of. I hope it is. This is the place where everything can go wrong and screw up. I have a feeling like there's a divine order after this life, and things go a lot smoother. Of course, I could be wrong. I could be on a spigot for eternity going, oh, I was wrong.
Sam, even to the end of his life, Sam considered himself a believer. He never felt like that he wasn't a believer. He felt like in his sense that he was still a Christian. And he wasn't perfect, but he felt like nobody was, and that he was just, instead of hiding his stuff, he had it out in the open.
The night of his wedding, he asked me to come and do his cummerbund, which was quite a job, because he gained a little weight, and he had bought this suit, and he said, come on, stretch this thing back there. I'm working on it, and in the middle of this, he goes, I don't know why I'm supposed to tell you this, but I feel to tell you this. Get things right with God. I said, what? He said, get things right with God. I said, Sam, I've got things right with God. I think if anybody needs to get it right with God, you got to get it right with God. He goes, oh, okay. And he was on his honeymoon. I didn't hear from him. I was happy for him. He was gone. He was vacationing. He was in Hawaii, his favorite spot. And we had a gig to do in Laughlin on Friday. He was married on Monday, and so on Friday he had a ride back in town and gave me a call early in the morning. So I'll meet you on the road. And I said, fine. Shot out, met up with his brother Bill.
Our last trip, which is actually our first trip to Laughlin, but it was ended up being our last trip. We were driving there, and I was following behind him and Malika in their automobile.
So we took off, and I laid down in the back seat, and I got into one of those dream states where I guess you just start to really float, and I was feeling good and excited about the evening, and I heard Bill in my dream telling Sam to be careful. And to be careful. Watch this guy. Watch this guy.
Young kid had been drinking and in a pickup and was passing as many cars as he could.
And then I heard the most horrible collision of steel crushing. I heard no brakes. And we skidded up, and I rolled off my seat onto the floor. And everything was in slow motion.
They collided head on.
I got up and saw Sam's car crushed up through the windshield. I opened my sliding door out of the back seat, got out of the car, and with that I saw Bill running next to me up to the car.
They couldn't get the door open to his car. And I remember with all the adrenaline and everything, I told him just to move out of the way, and I jerked this door open, and Sam was inside. And it didn't look like he was hurt. I didn't know he was dying. He had some scratches on his forehead.
Sam was stretched out across the middle of the seat with a minor cut, little blood out of his mouth. And he looked fine, just he'd been hurt. And the steering wheel was totally gone. Just the column was left. And there's 3 boys in a truck, and their windshields were crushed out. And Bill hit them with, you know what you just did? You ignorant fools. God, you guys were doing 100 miles an hour.
But I remember opening up the door, and he was going, why? Why now? And so I was telling him, don't move. I went around to the other side, and Malika had put her seat back, and I don't know if she was passed out or been knocked unconscious, but I didn't want to move her. I just worried about if she's still alive. And I checked her pulse. It seemed strong. Then the kid that hit him was trapped in his truck, and somebody's yelling there's gas all around the truck. They was afraid it's going to explode. So I went over and I jerked that door open. And I came back, and Carl LeBeau, which was his best friend, was there, and Sam was wanting to get out of the car.
And a beer can was crushed. There's beer cans all over the road from this guy's truck. And a truck was driving by and crushed beer all over us. I said, get the beer out of the road. And with that, Sam came falling out onto my lap, and I fell on my butt. His head was in my arms, and he was talking, and he was looking up to the right, and he was going, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Why now? Why now?
Sam kept repeating, that I heard, he kept repeating, why? Why now? Why? Why now?
I said, you're not going to die. And he said, but why now? Oh, okay. 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 And I felt him leave.
Carl told me that twice he had said, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And then finally 3 times he went, okay, okay, okay. And I don't think anybody that was out there with us or watching it, I don't think anybody could be there and not believe in an afterlife, not believe that he wasn't communicating with somebody, because he was speaking very clearly. His eyes weren't rolled back. It looked like he was looking at somebody. He just never responded to us.
Sam didn't do anything he didn't want to do. And somebody said the right thing, and Sam heard it, and he left with them. And whenever you get to be, I think, blessed enough to see someone go the way that he went, which was wanting to go. Not fighting the struggle to live, but somebody said the right thing for him, and he left with them. It leaves you a peace in your own heart. And you know the guy lived the full gambit of a great life.
It helped. It helped me handle, and I think probably everybody out there, it helped us handle the death, is that maybe this was supposed to happen. He wasn't in pain, and it's like he relented to do that. And Malika ended up with a mild concussion, so she ended up all right. But I remember we went to the hospital, and I'd never had trouble speaking. I'd never stuttered in my life, and I remember having to pick this phone up and first call my what was my wife then, call her, and get a bunch of phone numbers, and I couldn't form the words. I was trying to tell her, you know, that Sam's dead. And I remember the next call I had to make was to my mother. And I had told her 4 years before that my youngest brother had just been shot in the head and he had died. And I remember picking up the phone. I'd had a friend go over to the house so she wouldn't be by herself, and I didn't want her to see it on the news. And I remember her answering the phone and very happy. And I told her, I said, this is going to be the hardest phone call I've ever made to you. And I remember her starting to say, oh no, oh no. And I said, yeah. He died in a head-on collision.
I loved his life, and I was blessed to be able to live it out with him.
As big a loss as it was to me as my brother and to my mother as a son, I think even a bigger loss, if it's possible, is to the world of comedy.
Know his name, better not come and living a dream when it